Well, Christian apologetic response is the next portion here, and he says that let me, in a very general way, suggest strategies that cover a great many actual cases. So he takes on first against atheistic relativism. When you find an unbeliever who stresses the atheistic relativist side of unbelief, be persistent in asking these two questions here. How can you be sure that relativism is right when it itself rules out all assurances? So this is there are no absolutes. Are you absolutely sure? Right. That's the one we all know. Well, how can you live as a relativist is the second one. How can you live like that? Having no assurance of anything must be a terrible strain, rationally, emotionally, and volitionally. What basis do you have for making decisions? What basis do you have for criticizing the treatment you receive from others? So, okay, what's true for me is not always true for you. And so this person came up to me and said, give me your wallet or I'll shoot you. Well, that's just a funny coincidence that just happened right there. And so I hope that person enjoys his new wallet. Well, no, that's not it. How dare he? This is my wallet. No, I'll not give it to you. Or please don't shoot me. Why? Well, I don't want you to. Well, I do. Well, now we're running into two opposing.
Just what we want. Yeah.
Right,
desires. Yeah. It's just a matter of desires. Right.
Good.
Yeah. So next, against idolatrous rationalism, he says, when we meet someone who tends to stress the powers rather than the limits of autonomous thought and action, you will likely be dealing with someone in the grip of an idol. Find out what his idol is and take aim by asking these questions. First, what basis is there for thinking that this idol is absolute? Also, does your God really do the job of a God? Did it create the world? Is it the ground of logic, mathematics, ethics, value, a universal judgment in science? Is it adequate as a final standing of meaning, truth, and right? Right. So, does it really do the job that that a God is supposed to do? And of course, the implication is it doesn't, and you'll be able to help the person see that.
Right. So this is the preconditionality of rationalism or of intelligibility. Can you okay, you want to be rational? Well, can you provide a system that provides you the ability to be rational? Is kind of one of the ways that you might ask that question. And so, evolution gave me the ability to survive, and rationalism is one of those ways. Okay, so there could be another creature on the other side of Jupiter that has evolved a different set of rationality. And so there's nothing wrong about that person. Well, no, it's got to be the same rationality. Okay, so evolution produced this universal physical trait that it imbued all living beings in the universe with. And so we go out and we have to operate in that way. And so you have to kind of, again, take that step back and say, okay, you want to use rationality, you want to use science. Can you provide a system by which you're allowed to do that? Can you justify the reason? Not well, it works. Well, okay, that's a might makes right approach, but you're saying, can you provide me the system in place that allows you to stand on the pedestal of science, of rationality, on your ethical standard? Right.
What's the foundation of it?
Right. Exactly. Well, we know that an impersonal God can do none of these things. So the unbeliever will be tempted either to lapse into relativism or to grant to God, his God, some element of personality. Well, once he does that latter, he is granting part of our case, and we can pursue him further, especially by asking him, how do you know this person? So I think rationality is one of those ones where we can say, in order to have rationality, there has to be a mind. And so, okay, well, where does this mind exist? Can you point to him? And so I can point to him. And so from there, we get onto how do you know this intelligence or this system is in place, this supercomputer that controls all things. And then you just are taking a step back and saying, okay, so did the supercomputer always exist, or have we always been in the matrix, or is there something outside the matrix that we can? Are we irrational outside the matrix, and only in here are we rational? Okay.
Right. So what we're seeing here is his what he calls these various arguments, or at least challenges or questions against atheistic relativism, against idolatrous rationalism, finally against atheistic idolatry. And he says here we press a fundamental contradiction in this rationalistic, irrationalistic combination. A proof that there are no proofs, an absolute statement that there are no absolute statements, he says. Then we attack the original rationalistic and irrationalistic elements, as we saw above. He says it will not be easy. The unbeliever will slide from one position to another, from rationalism to irrationalism and back again. And so it says, in the end, really, argument itself will not be enough. God must intervene there. Thus, prayer, he tells us, and he ends the chapter here, prayer is the ultimate apologetic weapon. Right? And so even when we confront, he's suggesting, and we get them to kind of somewhat admit this, it still won't be enough. We still need to go to God about men before we talk to men about God, is what he's giving.
This is why with Reformed epistemology, it's not enough to just break down all the barriers. You want to provide a position in order to grab onto, the life preserver. And so that's why I think he presented the evidence or proof of the gospel earlier in this book because he wants to stress that from a biblical perspective, that's the ultimate key. We can talk about evolution and the peppered moth and the scientists gluing them on to show just how important impact the humans had at developing the peppered moth. But ultimately, it comes down to whether or not one puts their faith, which is trust, in God to not just have risen from the dead, but also to pay for their sins perfectly. And so that's what we want to drive home as the point for the ultimate message. It's not just to be contentious. It's not just to have arguments, but it's to have arguments for a purpose and for the betterment of that person as well. And so not just to add numbers to our side like zombies. We want people to live consistently and honor the Creator that created all things, and then go and be with Him with all of us, as many people as possible in the end. So.